Hi everyone, so we are just getting ready to turn in the literature review, which will be turned in, as I'm doing this is a Saturday morning, and the literature review will be turned in tomorrow evening at the latest, at midnight, Sunday evening. And so let's just run through this little graphic that I put together as a suggestion of some of you, and to just remind us of what we're doing with the literature review before we move on to case study, which is what we will be doing in week 11. All right, let's take a look at the literature review. Reminding ourselves that the purpose of the review is that we're going to provide evidence for the need for the study, for the gap. And we've identified first through our literature map and then later through a more concerted discussion of the literature that we have three or more streams of literature that are related, specifically related to the phenomenon. We've moved from topic to phenomenon, which is what we are studying. The phenomenon is what's happening here and that we are very interested in discussing, whether it's qualitative, some experience that's happening for participants, or whether it's quantitative, that it is a situation that is occurring. That is our phenomenon under study. All right. The literature review then opens by restating, and this is the format, restating the purpose and the research questions, or question if it's a qualitative study. We're going to discuss then the search engines that were used and the terms that were searched. However, we'll leave out those that were unfruitful and only discuss the terms that actually netted some gain for us, that were that got us toward the research, toward the literature that was particularly fruitful. So those are the fruitful terms. Then we want to talk about how we organize those terms or categorize them into those three or more streams. And then we state the streams as we conclude the introduction to the literature review. We state those streams 1, 2, and 3, only moving general to specific, and we want those then streams to become the headers for our literature review. Okay, so the streams now are becoming the headers, and we're going to use the very same names of the streams as our headers. Okay, here's what it looks like then. Let's just move this up so that you can see it a little better. Okay, there we go. So going general to specific then in a V, we have topics then within each stream, right? And so view this as kind of, as you have this discussion, that you are sitting around your kitchen table and that all of your authors are there with you. You are the moderator of this conversation or panel discussion, if you will, and the various authors, as you go from within a stream, as you go from topic to topic to topic, they're going to have a conversation about these topics. So you're not going to have a conversation of just Bingham 2014 and a paragraph about Bingham and one author, and then another paragraph about Simons and another paragraph about Garcia. You are going to have Bingham, Simons, and Garcia all talking about topic 1. And then perhaps Garcia is the more noted author for topic 2, and maybe you're going to add in Phillips in that conversation, and maybe Bingham steps out, doesn't really research in the topic 2, and so won't be part of the conversation, but then comes back in as a minor player for the conversation for topic 3, but you add Logan as another conversationalist, and maybe Logan Maybe her research is paramount to understanding topic 3. So general to specific, and you also want to discuss then as you go through this, these as maybe a summary of stream 1. Here are the things you found in the literature, but then related to your topic, here's what you did not find. It seemed to be missing. Notice you can't say it is missing because you simply were unable in this very short time in the semester to investigate every single piece of literature out there on your topic or on your around your phenomena. So we have to use conditional terms. It wasn't found or seems to be missing in the literature. And then we've concluded stream 1, and we're going to do the very same thing for stream 2 and stream 3. So then we've got all of our streams, and we're going to, for each one of them, talk about what's in the literature and what's not found in the literature. Notice that what's not found in the literature then becomes our gap. What is not found in the literature then becomes the gap. And that's general to specific, and how we're going to discuss the literature in the literature review. We conclude then with the highlights of the literature review, and then we're going to transition to section 3. And we might even make such a simple statement as section 3 will describe the study methods. End of story. Okay. Enough said about the literature review. Let's move on. And then let's center our conversation here. And as we head toward Halloween, we're going to talk about case study. All right, opening up the framework, case study. I'm going to start with our graphic for understanding case study. Really, Sharon Merriam has the most accessible approach in my view. And basically what we're doing is, if we were to talk about Merriam's analysis approach, she is going to, and this is, in case study, we are able to use lots of different types of data. We're able to use the data we gain from interviewing a purposefully selected group of individuals, and we select the individuals for case study of those people who can tell us about their experience of the phenomenon. For example, if we were to study the experience of people who care for elderly people who fall, and that's a hazard, as some of you may have parents you care for, that it's possible that in late life people become unsteady and balance becomes an issue. So caring for someone who has experienced a fall is a phenomenon. So if that were our phenomenon, then we would interview people, and that's one way of collecting data. Another way of collecting data might be journals of those people, or it might be even records of bringing people to the ER or to various kinds of other artifacts. So those become the data bits. The whole idea of the analysis of case study is to cluster those data bits and then to separate them by like category. Much like you would be doing a jigsaw puzzle. You're looking for the blue pieces and you want to collect all the blue pieces together. You're not quite sure whether the blue here is going to be that cool looking Corvette or whether it's going to be the sky. They both seem to be about the same color. The problem when you're doing a case study is you don't have that wonderful box that the puzzle pieces came in that gives you the picture that you're looking for. When you have the data for a case study, you are going by what you heard and seems to be alike. Okay, so that's how you're going to describe your analysis. Let's go back up and take a look at how we're describing the plan for conducting case study, which is what we're doing for our qualitative case study and verification. Notice that we had validity that we were wanting to confirm as our quality of a survey study. Validity is quantitative. Verification is qualitative. That's the qualitative form of quality. The qualitative form of quality. And what you're going after here, rather than validity and reliability, is trustworthiness. So let's go forward and talk in terms of what we're doing with a case study. So a case study privileges perspective. And that's true really of all qualitative studies. They not only privilege perspective and the worldview as perceived by the participants who are specifically selected because they hold a similar worldview on the phenomenon, or that they, when asked, confirm that they have experienced the phenomenon, that we embrace as qualitative researchers their subjectivity. Rather than saying that we want them to be objective, we're fine that they are subjective. As a matter of fact, we want to, in an emic way, that's EMIC, represent faithfully their voices in our study and investigation and report. We want to be faithful to representing their voices, their worldview. Okay? So when we're doing qualitative methods, they're really called procedures in the vernacular. And the qualitative, if you look at the procedures, we're going to start with the assumptions, the characteristics of a qualitative design first of all. So you can remember in a quantitative case study that what you did was start with the purpose and the questions, and then you want to talk about the population and the sample and the participants. Here we're going to talk about the characteristics of a qualitative design. And then we're going to talk about the assumptions of qualitative research and the particular strategy that we want to use, type of methodology or type of tradition that we're using. And here we're going to specifically talk about case study. Now we introduce an entirely different section or subsection than we would have in a quantitative study, and that is role of the researcher. Now, we're not simply saying that I'm the person who's collecting the data and analyzing the data, so I'm the researcher in this project. What we're saying is I'm a person who actually cares for someone who has fallen, or I'm a nurse and work with people in a long-term care facility who care for people who have fallen, or who are the caregivers for people who have fallen. Or I am I study geriatric nursing, geriatric experience. So you want to say who you are and what your bias is in this particular study, because you are the instrument. Everything comes through you, and you become a filter of those perspectives. And so you need to be very clear, transparent as much as you can about what your biases are in the study, so that people who read it remember, oh, that's right, the researcher cares for someone who has fallen and so has that worldview. Notice then it becomes your onus to bracket or set aside, if you will, recognize and set aside your biases. And the first step to that is the role of the researcher to make them known and clear. Then we talk about the data collection procedures and data analysis procedures in a stepwise. Your strategy for verifying the findings, again, we're going for trustworthiness here, and I believe that those things are all discussed in this week's resources, so take a look at those. Finally, you're going to have preliminary studies or pilot studies if you anticipate doing those, and you would have a timeline. So that's how it would be very similar. Those bottom pieces are similar to the quantitative. This is an understanding of analysis here that you can discuss. So for this week, we are going to, and one of the readings is the 5-question method, framing a qualitative study, that will give you a closer sense of what should be considered in a qualitative study, and in a possible way of approaching it. Okay, so the assignment here, we're going to have discussion forum, and we're going to be talking about this week we're going to be preparing our instrument. Now the instrument is either, if you're doing the survey, the instrument is going to be a questionnaire. And if you're doing an interview protocol, then the instrument, or if you're doing qualitative, then an instrument is the interview protocol. And so there's information about preparing each. For the interview protocol, there's a template and I think a couple of examples. There are examples of questionnaires. So then says November 1st is when this is due, and that can't be right because November 1st is coming right up. It will be the following, please submit the following Sunday, and I will change that on your actual framework, as well as to make sure that it is correct in the portal, so that you can see that it is actually going to be next Sunday and not the 1st of November. All right, let's start. We're on our way in week 11.